Hey everyone, Chef Ryan here from Growing Chefs Ontario, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a peach, corn, and tomato salsa. We're just heading into peach and corn season here in Ontario, and I love that I can support our local farmer and get the best flavors for this recipe. The equipment you'll be using for this recipe is a cutting board with a damp cloth underneath, a knife, a large skillet, mixing bowls, and a spatula. The ingredients you'll be using for this recipe are 3 large ripe peaches, 1 cob of corn, or half a cup of corn kernels, 2 large tomatoes, 1 red bell pepper, 1 jalapeno, a 1/4 cup of red onion, a half a cup of cilantro, a half a teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, and a half a tablespoon of lime juice. To start this recipe, I'm going to char my corn. So I have a cast iron skillet here. There's no oil in it. It's on medium-high heat. I'm going to place my corn in it. If you're using a regular frying pan, you can brush your corn with a little bit of olive oil to help the charring process. So I'm just going to get it nice and charred all over. I've been charring my corn for about 5 minutes now. You can see I've got some nice color all over the corn. If charring the corn in a pan makes you a bit nervous, this recipe works great with boiled corn as well. So I'm just gonna let that hang out and cool down a little bit. While I'm waiting for it to cool, I'm going to start processing my red pepper. So I have a red bell pepper here. I'm just going to do a nice medium to small dice on it. I've got my red pepper all diced. I'm going to put it into a medium-sized bowl. When you're making salsa, it's really important to try to get all of your diced pieces of vegetables the exact same size so that they hold up nicely together on a chip. Next, I'm going to move on to my jalapeno. So whether you like spicy things or not, you can decide to use the jalapeno. I will be taking the seeds out though, so that it's not quite as spicy. To do this, I'm just going to take the tip of my knife and run it along the white parts of the jalapeno. It's also a good idea to maybe wear gloves because you don't want to touch your eyes or your face after touching the seeds of the jalapeno. For the jalapeno, I am going to do a much smaller dice than everything else so that it's not so strong. I've got my jalapeno finely diced now. I really like spicy things, so I'm using the whole jalapeno. Plus the sweetness of the peaches is going to balance that out a little bit. Next, I'm going to add a 1/4 of a red onion. I'll cut the half of the red onion into quarters and remove the onion paper. And I'm going to finely dice it. I'm using red onion today because I like the bit of the sweetness of the red onion, but it also has that sharp oniony flavor to it. I'll put my red onion into the bowl. And next I'm going to process my peaches. So to do that, I have a smaller knife, a paring knife. And I'm going to take my peaches and just run the knife along the peach until I feel the stone or the pit in the center of the peach. I'm then going to just twist the flesh of the peach. And you can see the stone or the pit of the peach there, and I'll do the same thing on this piece. And I'm going to dice my peach about the same size as my red pepper. Got the last one of my 3 peaches chopped. Put that into my bowl with everything else, and I'm going to move on to my tomatoes. I have 2 large red ripe tomatoes that I'm going to dice the same size as my peaches, or roughly. Now that my tomatoes all diced, I'm going to add it into the bowl with everything else. This recipe is great for working on your knife skills or your chopping skills. Next, I'm going to add some cilantro. So again, this is a preference thing. I know a lot of people don't like cilantro. I love cilantro. I'm going to add probably about a half a cup of chopped cilantro. I'm using just the leaves for this recipe, but you can save the stems and use them for other applications. Now that I've got about a half a cup of cilantro, I'm going to gather it all up in a tight little ball and just roughly chop it. I've just 2 more ingredients left after my cilantro. So normally I would add some fresh lime juice to this salsa. I didn't have a lime today, so I'm using a lemon instead. I'm still going to get that same acidic brightness from it. Give that a little squeeze into our salsa. And then the last ingredient is going back to that corn that we started with. So I've found a really cool trick on how to cut corn off the cob without it going everywhere. When I used to cut corn at home, my dog would love it, and she would pick up all the little kernels that fell on the floor around me until I learned this trick. So I have a bowl here and a smaller bowl inverted inside of it. I'm going to take my cob of corn and hold it steady against the smaller bowl inside and just go around the cob, cutting all of the kernels off. That way the bowl catches all of the kernels that come off of the cob. There we go. Now I'm just going to add the corn to everything else and give it a mix and check the seasoning. We have our salsa here. In goes the corn. And I'm going to give it a little salt and pepper to start, and then I'll taste it and adjust the seasoning again. You can see as I mixed the salsa together that all of the pieces are roughly the same size except for my jalapeno and my red onion. Once this is all mixed up, you can serve it with a side of nacho chips.